Hello and welcome back to The Artful Chef. So today we are talking about pointillism. Pointillism is like stippling. So if you remember stippling from our mark making lessons, it's all those tiny little dots that you can create value with by getting your dots closer together or spreading them apart. So it's dots like that, but we're not focusing as much on value, but color mixing. So pointillism takes advantage of the way that our eyes work with our brain. So instead of seeing hundreds or thousands of individual dots of color when we look at things that are done in the style of pointillism, our eyes and our brain blend them together naturally in order to form these multiple colors to create an image in our head, which isn't necessarily what's on the canvas, but our brain makes us think that it is. So this is called optical mixing. So when our brain does that with our eyes, it's called optical mixing. Remember that for your tests for semester 2. So we're going to look at this painting by George Seurat. So if you'll notice up here, in this painting, George Seurat and Paul Signac were the first people to really do this technique, and they kind of came off the shirt tail of Claude Monet. And Claude Monet did a lot of paintings where you could see all of his brush strokes, and he had these clumps of color that were together, but it wasn't totally blended like the artists were doing at that time. So pointillism, they just took it a little step further. And so what they did is, rather than blending these colors together, we have all these tiny little dots of, let's say you want to create the illusion that you're looking at orange. Well, you would have layers of red and yellow dots really close together, and your eye, your brain, work together to make you think you're seeing orange. So we're going to see how in this picture, this Claude Monet, I want to give you a close-up right here of what he did, and then we're going to compare that to pointillism in our next picture. So in this picture, La Parade, or The Parade by Seurat, we see, if we zoom in on this picture in just a minute, you're going to see there's a face in the corner. And from a distance in this picture, you can see the person and you can see the face, but when you really zoom in close, like here, you're going to notice that on the face, you actually see all these dots of orange, pink, and blue on the face. But from the distance, they look like skin color. So that's the really cool thing about pointillism, other than the fact that, you know, it's all these little tiny dots. So it is kind of relaxing. Now, if you lack patience, of course, this could take a little bit of a toll on you, but I want you to give it a try anyway. So the next thing I want you to look at is this picture by Seurat, and you're going to notice that the grass above the dog looks green, but if you look closer, you're going to see a lot of other colors mixed in there in those dots besides what your eye is telling you that you see. There are other artists like Pablo Ruiz, who use black ink, and they do more of the stippling effect, but is also pointillism because it's all these tiny little dots, and he makes every kind of gray shade you can imagine just by doing these little dots and creating that value. So we've learned that stippling is tiny dots. Now we're going to just, like I said, blend the two together. We're going to make an eye in the style of pointillism. So you will need some paint. I have today for my lesson a red, yellow, and blue, so I have my primary colors. I have white and black, and then I have some skin tones. So we're going to work together to create something unique. And so I have a special guest with me today. So I have Layla joining me for our video today. And we are going to get started on drawing our eye and doing our painting, and we're going to walk you through all the steps to how to make that happen. Let's get started. Okay, so we're going to get started on our pointillism eye. We are going to, I have a printout here of the eye. Now, if you are at home and you want to print the eye template, I will have it available on Canvas. If you want to free draw your eye, you're more than welcome to do so. So we have the printed version here. We're going to start with the cornea, and we're going to work our way out. So the cornea is the colored part of the eye. So whatever color you want your eye to be. If you don't want one of these colors and you want to have a different color, you can mix a little on your mixing mat over there. But the idea again behind pointillism is that you layer those tiny little dots of color so that you get the different colors that you want from a distance so your eye kind of blends them together. So I'm gonna make mine blue since my eyes are blue. I'm gonna start with the blue dot. Want a different color other than blue or green or brown for your eye, then by all means you can do that. Just keep in mind that you need to be doing those layers a little bit at a time. Layla's doing blue and yellow to make hers green. After you've laid down your color, then you can begin with the pupil in the center. Your pupil can be your basic black, or if you're going outside the box, you can do a different color. Stay away from the edges of the cornea for right now. We will come back to those later on. Distance, when you're looking at it from a distance, but you still want to see them up close because that's the whole point behind pointillism. We're going to move on to working on the eyelids, and remember that everything works better when you work in slow layers. So we're going to start with ours with a skin tone, a flesh color. You do not necessarily have to use a flesh color on yours. If you want to start with the color of maybe eyeshadow, or if you're thinking outside the box and you want something different, that's fine if you use that. I just want you to keep in mind that right now we're working with our lightest color on the eyelid, and we're going to build from there. We're going to layer. So we'll do some lighter colors, some darker colors. We're going to be mixing some pinks and yellows with our flesh tones on our eyelid as we work. So we're just going to start above the eye, and we'll go a little below it. As you line the lower and upper lids with a darker shade, either of a skin tone or a color if you're choosing to go with the look of eye makeup, just keep in mind that you're not rubbing it across there. You are still doing your small dots on your eyes in the style of pointillism. Okay, you ready to do the next part?
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna go with a little bit of a pink shade on mine, so I'm gonna mix some red and white on my mixing mat. You can go with whatever color you want on this next step. You're gonna do the same, okay? As you work on the layers on this next step, I want you to keep in mind the places where you want to show shadows or dark areas, maybe in the crease of the eye or up near the eyebrow. We're not doing the eyebrows just yet, but thinking about your layers, you're going to start with your lightest color and always work to your darkest one because you don't want to have to go back and cover those up. As you begin to work on the eyebrows, keep in mind that hairs on your eyebrows are not all exactly in line with one another. So for a realistic one, kind of have your lines go different directions. You can still keep that beautiful arch of the eyebrow, but keep it realistic by changing up the lines a little bit in the hairs. When you're working on the eyelashes, make sure you're also keeping that in mind, is that they don't all go exactly the same direction. Now you can make them thicker or thinner or more full as you wish. That's up to you. Just also use your lighter colors first and then your darker colors to layer on top of. When you get all of that done, just go back in and fill in as you need to either go all the way to the edge of your page, or if you just want to do right around the eye, that's fine. If you want to add the nose line, you can do that if you want all those extra details, but that's totally up to you. After you've done your touch-ups and you've gotten the outside of your eye the way you would like for it to look, I want you to go back in with some white dots and fill in the whites of the eye. You may need to touch up the edges a little after you've done that. And then I want you to outline the edge of the cornea with a darker color so that you can give it some emphasis and make it the focal point of your picture. So if you chose to go with a blue, you would use a dark blue. If you did a green, you would use something darker, like a darker green, or just something to emphasize the edge of the colored part of the eye. And then you are complete. All right, so we have finished our pictures here, and we went with more of a little bit realistic picture, but again, it's art. So if you're if you have eyeshadow, or if you have rainbow eyes or skin or whatever it is that you want to do, as long as you get the idea behind the dots on the pointillism, that's what I'm looking for. So this assignment is in Canvas. You will need to turn this in to Canvas, so take a picture of it, and I look forward to seeing your work. Thanks so much for joining me, Layla. You did a great job.